Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about the Synology FlashStation NAS. Now, I've talked about a lot of different NASs on this channel over the years. Let's be honest, when it comes to Synology, there aren't that many units I've not had my hands on, but FlashStation NASs are so fantastically enterprise that very rarely do I ever get my hands on one of these devices. The reason being that these are NASs that retail for about £5,000 to £10,000 a throw, and on top of that, they make considerably less of them, as you'd expect. A DS918 from Synology that knocks around for about £400 to £500, they probably knock out a few 100,000 of those at the very least. But FlashStation NASs are designed for supreme enterprise, and therefore they don't make a lot of them. Now, lucky for me, I've got my hands on a sample unit that I'm going to be playing with for today's video. Now, what I've done is I've installed DSM 6.2 on this device, the very latest version, and on top of that, I've got an SSD installed inside. But it's worth highlighting straight off the bat that this video is about showing you the user interface of a FlashStation NAS. It is not about looking at those high IHOPs or to be used as a performance benchmark. We're not going to be able to do that largely because in the storage manager I've only got one SSD installed. Now, the start of 2020, I am going to be working on a video with a FlashStation NAS that's fully populated and talking more about the IOPS that you can achieve from the device over the likes of 10 GBE and internally, as well as discussing the inherent advantages of RAID F1. I will refer to RAID F1 later in the video, but as you can see here, for this video, it's not going to be possible to talk about that because I've only got one old-style SSD inside this device, a particularly small one indeed. But even with this small SSD, the device is running, and today's video is about showing you guys what you get from a FlashStation NAS, because a number of you are buying it for high-end IOPS, don't get me wrong, but you're also buying it for the Synology software. You've got your 5 years warranty, you've got your enterprise grade hardware, and you want to know what software for your business you're going to get. So, first and foremost, what we need to do is set up our storage area. In that storage manager, although I've assigned one SSD, we are going to need to create a storage pool. A storage pool is where we would set up our device for the first time and have an area of storage space for our data to live within volumes on top of. So, say for example, we want to go for a high-end performance choice. We can go down to here and we can give the description, give it a name. We're just going to call it basic. And there's a whole host of different RAID options readily available. Although once again, it's worth highlighting that because I'm only using one SSD, the only RAIDs that we can use are RAID 0, JBOD and basic. RAID F1 is that RAID volume where you can get a FlashStation NAS that's fully populated with SSDs. And I'm going to completely caveman it here. RAID F1 creates a system not dissimilar to the likes of RAID 5 or RAID 6, where data is written across multiple disks in every wave of data, and an area of parity is placed on one of the disks, and that little parity moves between disks with every wave, and that's how RAID 5 works, or two parities in the case of RAID 6, and therefore if one of your drives fails, then you can recover your data using the existing data and the parity on the remaining disks. RAID F1 uses that same logic. However, after the parity is created on a disk with each RAID wave, it's worth mentioning that one of the drives is selected to be the F1 RAID volume, and an additional copy of that parity lives on that extra drive. The result is that you have multiple drives being written to, but one drive is working twice as hard, technically, because one extra block of parity will always be on that disk. The result is, because SSDs have a certain lifespan, RAID F1 allows you to select which drive is going to be the one that may fail and replace. And then after that, it creates a staggered system of parity across those disks, and therefore allows you to select a drive for replacement because of performance and those NAND chips overall. And that's how RAID F1 works. I'm aware that what I just described was an incredibly caveman way to put it, but, and there's the description there for you, I will be going into a lot more detail on RAID F1 once we've got one of these devices fully populated at the start of 2020. But for now, we're going to go straight into a basic, just a single drive, and it can go up to, and it can be grown over time. You can even select if you're using SAS or SATA drives, of which I'm using SATA. I'm going to use that one drive, plonk that over there, click next, and move forward. It's now going to initialize that disk, and we can decide whether we want to perform an integrity check. I'm going to say no, and we can go straight into it. Once this is done, we're going to set up a volume, which is going to be an area of storage on our device. So that's going to do that there, and it's done very, very quick. It's a small drive and it's a basic. From here, we now want to create a volume. This is where all of our data, our apps, our backups, everything will go. As you can see, there's our basic storage pool, and there's no data protection at the moment because I did not use a RAID. If we click next, we can name the device, the area. We're going to click next there. We can say if we want to use BTRFS, which uses a system of checksums and fast creation snapshots, all available on BTRFS, which I'm going to go for. But ext4, it should be said, does give you the better performance in terms of read and write overall, although BTRFS gives you better integrity checks of your data overall with less of an impact on hardware resources. Moving forward, we can click apply, and it's going to set up our volume. And remember, it's this straightforward. All Synology NASs have this feature and functionality. There are some brands out there, and I'm not going to mention them, that very much the top tier brands that make you pay 5, 10, 20, 50,000 pounds for huge storage devices that are quite brainless in the grand scheme of things. They are dedicated storage devices, but the software they arrive with is rudimentary in the extreme, and that's something you don't get with a FlashStation, because now we can go into the package center and look at these different packages. We're going to install a few of them and maybe take a look at them, but for more information on all of the most important packages, do check out my previous videos on DSM 6.2 and of course DSM 7 when the beta arrives soon. Active Backup for Business is an application that is a completely free and one portal access point to backing up everything, whether it is VMware, whether it's PCs or more in your environment, with a promise in 2020 for Mac support as well as Windows and all of that versioning and file pinning that we'll talk about later on in Drive. On top of that, from virtual environments to Android environments to remote environments, network environments and more are all managed by this one app, and we will take a look at that one. As well as backups for Office 365, which is the Office cloud-based Office program that allows all of the documents and all of the accounts and the users, their logins, their emails and everything to be backed up via Active Backup for Business on your NAS. Same goes for Google and their G Suite Office collaboration tool as well. Now we can install free antivirus software if we want. We can install the Synology Calendar application, and the Synology Calendar application allows you to migrate data between a number of the services that arrive on your device. Now, maybe you've already got an email server knocking around. Let's face it, if you're in business, you almost certainly have your email already taken care of. What a lot of these applications do is allow you to have a single portal and control access point on the NAS to take care of all of these services and keep all of your data in-house. So right now it's installing different background apps that are required for Calendar to run. These are the same apps that we need for other applications too, and we're going to leave that to do its installation there in the background. It's nearly finished there, and we can look at some of the other applications after this as it completes. We're going to let that finish. We're going to do one more app there in the background, and I wish I'd moved this window out of the way because it would be good to talk about some of these other applications too. Because Synology does have, by far, the best selection of applications for NAS that you can get, particularly if you're a business owner. If you are a business owner that have lots of people working via the network, chances are you might be using third-party applications for communication such as Skype and WhatsApp. Maybe you're using third-party clouds like Dropbox or Google Drive. Maybe you're using a whole backup strategy that relies on multiple companies. The Synology NAS lives in your network and provides applications that will replace all of the third-party ones that you're using. So whether it's a content management system, a central management system even, whether you're going to synchronize with a cloud provider, moving forward, we can look at FileStation that allows you to navigate files on your NAS directly via the web browser. Hyper Backup allows you to back up multiple services from between the NAS and the cloud or other NASs in the network environment. Sorry, got a bit of a cough. And these backups can all live here in the Hyper Backup Vault, and they will be protected as much as you need. Moving on forward, we will look at some of these applications in a bit. We can look at some of the other apps that are included. You've got MailStation, Mail Server, and Mail Plus that allow you to add multiple third-party mail providers and have all of the data and all the attachments and the emails and communication all living within the NAS, all protected and encrypted as you see fit. On top of that, Presto File Server allows faster file transfers between server devices if you have multiple Synology NASs in your environment. So even though you might be getting a FlashStation NAS that costs, again, £3, £5 or £10,000, you can synchronize it with lesser NASs as a backup and have it in the fastest possible way. Snapshot replication allows you to create snapshots of data that will keep a hierarchical and chronological record of the files on your NAS as changes happen, and therefore if a change has happened for the worse, be it a deletion or a corruption of a file, you can synchronize through other versions of that file that have existed previously. Storage Analyzer allows you to analyze the data on your device, what kind of data you have and where it can make recommendations for savings, and with DSM-7's greater improvements in the field of compression and deduplication, be it on SSD caching and more, this is an area that you're going to see a lot of improvements in the near future. Now, Surveillance Station I have talked about a lot. I strongly recommend you check out my videos. Just look up Robbie NAS or whatever, or Robbie NAS Surveillance Station Synology, because their surveillance software is incredible. Not only is it an enterprise class surveillance software that arrives included with your NAS, although additional licenses will be needed after you use first few cameras included, it is a great tool for the cameras in your home, your business, your office and more. And once again, all of that data, all of those cameras and all of those bespoke alert settings from motion detection, light detection and more, depending on the cameras you use, all within the NAS environment, but also with protected external access too. Synology Chat Server allows users who have got access to the NAS to be able to communicate in a dynamic fashion. What that means in real terms is, much like Skype or WhatsApp, every user can use a mobile app or a desktop client application or via the web browser to communicate with other users on the Synology NAS. You can utilize it to send photos, video, emails, pinned documents, recommendations for calendars and more, all between other connected chat users. You do not pay anything extra, and it allows all of your users with their own security credentials and administrative rights to communicate over the network, keeping all communication in your business in-house. Next, Synology Drive gives you the ability to synchronize your NAS locally with your PC or Mac system. With file pinning, file streaming and more, Synology Drive is a one portal access point and allows you to create a folder on your PC or Mac that is seen as a local file or folder, but at the same time lives on the NAS. For people that don't want to muck around with the user interface of a Synology NAS, Synology Drive is a hugely advantageous app that allows you to create a folder that lives on your PC or Mac or external system and Android too, but with the added advantage you'll never have to look at this user interface if you don't want to, and backups and more are all done in the background as you need. Synology High Availability allows you to have two Synology NASs that are synchronized that allow you to have all of your data from one NAS be synchronized with another, and if one of the NASs dies, your clients, your customers, your staff or more will not lose access to the data, with the added bonus that all of the paths that they have will continue to work. So even though you've got the data on two NASs, the data itself will never change its location as far as your end user is concerned. Synology Office, another great little application there, allows you to use Office applications for Excel documents, PDFs, PPTX files, and of course Word and more, and allows you to see all of those documents and files via your web browser or via the local files, much like you would with Google Docs, but with the added bonus that all the files are still on your NAS. None of this data will go on the internet if you don't want it to. That's the whole point of the NAS, the ability to make sure the data stays in-house. And on the subject of in-house, after we're talking about USB copy backups here to back up your NAS to an external USB device, we could look at Virtual Machine Manager. This allows you to have multiple virtual machines living on your network environment with all of the data of those VMs all living on the NAS. So if you've got multiple staff all using a Windows virtual machine, or you want to clone existing PCs and migrate them over to the virtual machine manager, thereby creating a virtual copy of a system that can be great for reinstalling backups or making sure that all data on any machine is still backed up to the NAS, the virtual machine manager is definitely going to be of use to you. And ultimately, these are all the applications that are included with a Synology NAS purchase. Not just the FlashStation NAS, but most Synology NASs. Though it's worth mentioning with the FlashStation, you've got the enormous IOPS advantages that are present to you as someone that needs super fast file access all of the time. Now, we've only talked about first-party applications, and I strongly recommend that you check out there's Ed there, get rid of him. I strongly recommend that you do check out my videos on all of these individual apps. I've produced videos on each of these applications from Synology, and it's even worth talking about the fact that there are multiple third-party apps as well that are readily available to you, along with beta applications all of the time. So while this installs the final component of Synology Office there in the background, I'm going to go here into the background and have a look at FileStation. And again, maybe you'll want to access your files via the web browser, but maybe you don't. It's good to know that you've got those options readily available. And with added applications from Synology, such as Hybrid Share and a bunch of other DSM apps too, all of these applications adding here at all times, it's good to know that Synology are still working on their software even though you've made your purchase. Because do bear in mind, although this device arrives with a 5-year warranty, Synology's warranty on their software is pretty much lifetime. As long as the device is still supported by that app, they will always provide tech support after your purchase. So do bear that in mind. Now we're looking at the performance monitor here that gives us real-time information about what's going on with our Synology NAS, and that's with regard to the individual CPU, the memory, the network, the disk, the volume, and if we have intelligent SCSIs set up in the background. All of this is readily available via the mobile application or via a Mac or Windows system, very easily indeed. We can even run tests on individual SSDs. If we go into the storage manager, we can even run an IOPS test on that SSD that we have installed inside our device. We can go to the benchmark tool and run a benchmark test on that drive. I won't do it right now because it will stop that drive being used, but I will do it at the end of the video. If we look at these third-party apps, we can see lots of familiar faces, everything from Docker for more container applications, Elephant Drive for synchronizing a bigger and better storage areas that are whole system-wide, Acronis True Image that will run backups of whole image-wide backups of your NAS, and a bunch of other apps too. Even Plex Media Server, which by the way would be tremendous overkill to buy one of these for Plex. There are loads of things from having your own customer relationship manager from the likes of vTiger, and I believe there is another CRM with Sugar, and running a WordPress or a web server is totally possible on this. The beta packages currently available allow you to see what Synology are doing for the future. With a migration assistant, we've already done a video on that one, that allows you to move data from a new and old NAS very easily indeed. Now, let's have a look at some of these applications we've installed. If we look at some of these here, we can have a look at the chat server that will open up a brand new window where users can now have conversations and communication. Now remember, you are looking at this via the web browser. And you are looking at this on a NAS that's just been set up. But say you created a new user and you wanted that user, let's go show you how easy it is to create a new user on this device. Let's go to user. Now I'm already the admin account, but let's create a new user. We're going to call this user admin2. This user here, we could give them an email address, but we're not going to. And we're going to give them a fantastically basic password. We're just going to give them the password. We create this user, we can say how much rights or privileges we want them to have to certain apps or certain folders. For now we're going to give them access to everything. We're saying them they've got unlimited storage. We're going to give them access to all of the apps. Don't move forward. And it's that simple. We can even create groups of files if we've got whole departments of people and we want certain bespoke rules to be imposed on individual users. Now we've created that, we can go into the Synology chat window and we can create a new conversation. We'll make sure admin2 is there with the user we've just created, and now we can start our conversation. So admin 2 there, and I can say what I want. I can send files from the NAS. I can open it up. I can add different things. I can create a poll if you're going to have a bunch of people working together. And you can upload files from your local directory or the NAS. Sorry, this cough just will not go away. Now, next we can look at Synology Office. Now, Synology Office once again allows you to synchronize with your local system if you so choose. You don't have to do it that way, but this allows you to open up. There's a Synology Drive applications there. It allows you to have a single portal access point to all of your files and folders. Now, if we go here and we look at Synology Drive, hopefully we've still got the Drive application from Synology pre-installed, and unfortunately we don't. But do check out my video on Synology Drive that allows you to have that local folder on your NAS system to synchronize with the NAS. Next, we can look at Hyper Backup. Now, Hyper Backup allows us to create multiple backup routines between everything from local USB devices to other NASs on the local area network, USB, or cloud providers. rsync allows us to synchronize between different NASs in any direction, whether it's one NAS to another or two folders on two different NASs that are permanently synchronized. There's even support for some of the most popular third-party cloud platforms too, and it really is very straightforward to set up a synchronization with a cloud provider. So for example, you're setting it up with Google Drive, you can click Google Drive, click Next, and then it will pop up and ask for your permission to synchronize. I'm not going to let that continue because that's my own Google Drive. But you can synchronize with that drive, and then it will ask you what folders you want to synchronize, and it's as straightforward as that. It will then create a folder on FlashStation that synchronizes between the NAS. FlashStation is, Hyper Backup is completely free, and I do recommend that you do check it out for your widespread backups, both in-house and externally. And remember, you are using all of the security credentials, all of the encryption and more that Synology offer with this package. Active Backup for Business takes that logic and really takes it further. It allows you to create a much, I'm going to go for this, we won't activate it at the moment. Oh, it's going to expect us to activate. Unfortunately, we can't open it without an activation. And it is a widespread used device. But for now, we can talk about the app itself, the fact that you can back up all of these different varying kinds of backup application. Do check out my dedicated video to Active Backup. And you can create schedules, deduplication and compression where appropriate. And I strongly recommend that on PC backups when you've got multiple users all backing up often exactly the same files. Deduplication, of course, let's get rid of you. We can carry on looking at maybe one or two apps before we go, because that really is it when it comes to buying a Synology NAS. It is a complete package. You are buying a device that brings you everything to the table at the same time. And whether you're utilizing, let's run that test, whether you're utilizing a FlashStation NAS just for the high IOPS and more, this isn't just about a fast server. If you want a fast server and that's all you want, you can, spend 10 times as much or 5 times as much, buy an HP server or something. This is about a complete solution. It gives you those high IOPS, it gives you RAID functionality, it gives you an insanely high CPU and more, but it also gives you all the applications that your business is ever going to need day to day moving forward. And that's why both a FlashStation and indeed a Synology NAS is a great purchase for business in 2020. I'm going to wrap things up now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, click like. I'm really sorry about the cough. I cannot shake it. If you want to learn more, click subscribe because I've got more videos on this device coming soon. And I will see you guys next time.